Welcome everybody, I'm Sally Nankavell. I'm the Executive Director of LegalCORPS, and we provide free legal services for small business owners and for inventors and for small nonprofits. I would also like to introduce Donna Rauch, and Donna is our Inventor Assistance Program Manager, and we are here today to help you make some decisions as you start out in your inventor journey. You may be partway through your journey already, but we hope this will be useful for you. We have a couple of fantastic resources here from the state of Minnesota and the region, really. Walt and Deb will be your resources here to help point you forward and give you some ideas about your next best steps. So we welcome you, and with that, I'd like to introduce Deb Hess, and Deb is going to lead us off with some PowerPoint and wisdom from many years in the business.
Good morning. Thank you for being here today. As she said, my name is Deb Hess, and I am with the United Inventors Association. I have the pleasure of serving as the operations director. I have been with the nonprofit side of inventing for over 30 years. So what you will be hearing today is information that's been gleaned from stories I have heard from inventors for all of those years. The UIA, three major programs are education, access, and advocacy. Education is the opportunity for you to go to our website and look at some of the articles, the videos that are there that help teach us the process. Access is to industry experts through our trade show programs that we have, and advocacy is helping educate inventors about things that are happening. We don't do lobbying. We are there to share information and news that's happening nationally in the intellectual property world. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and it started back in the early 90s to help educate people about the invention promotion companies that were out there, that inventors were the target market of those companies. Why should anybody support inventors and innovation? Because they're the driving force of our economy. One of my favorite phrases from my work with the Minnesota Inventors Congress is that new ideas create new products create new markets, and new markets create jobs. It's it in a nutshell. All right. Carl O.J. was the inventor of the original quad cane. He came to the Minnesota Inventors Congress Expo that had a 58-year run here. It started back in 1958. Carl came in 1964 with his quad cane. He was an inventor, an entrepreneur, and an MIC volunteer. And the reason I'm sharing this example is, are you an entrepreneur or do you just want to license your idea? Because that's something you need to be thinking about very early on, is what is your motivation for doing this? Carl had two products that he brought to the show. One is the quad cane, and the other was a rack that took the hockey players off the rink that were injured back when the North Stars were here. He never patented the quad cane. He had inventors trying constantly to encourage him to get a utility patent or a design patent, and he didn't do either. He knew that his job with as simple of a product as this was, is to make as many of them as possible, get them out in the marketplace, establish his name, and go forward. And that is exactly what he did, and he still believed to the very last conversations I had with him about inventing that he made the right decision with this product. Now, they patented many other products. He moved to Redwood Falls and started a company called Activate that now has international distribution of medical rehab equipment. So he was an entrepreneur. He was so wise. He knew his job was to find people to fill in the information or the skills that he didn't have, to bring them around the table and work with him. So it's just a great example of which direction do you want to go? Do you want to invest in the time and energy to be an entrepreneur, or you're working to license your idea? So whichever direction you choose to go, to start at the very beginning, there are three keys to inventing to help you succeed in the marketplace. You need to learn how to identify key resources. you can't do this alone. You absolutely are going to have to connect with other people. You want to make sure you're investing your time and money wisely. You'll hear me say that more than once as we go through this. You need to know what is absolutely necessary to succeed. It's very easy to fail in this process, and that's where this phrase comes in. The most important investment that you can make is to become educated in the product development process. Coming up with an idea is not all that you need to do. It's so much deeper than that. Or to say it another way, the worst investment an aspiring inventor can make is to just wing it and hope you make the right decisions. Do accidents happen in inventing? Absolutely. Are there rare stories of somebody who succeeds without actually going through all of these steps? Yeah, they're right place, right time. 30 plus years, it's rare. So, I have a few favorite people that I love to quote. Gerald Udell was prolific in doing market research for inventors his entire career. Here's a few of his. All ideas deserve to exist, but not all ideas will make it in the marketplace. Ideas are not created equal. And that business is the exchange of value between at least two people. And you build on those ideas that deserve to be in the marketplace and have value. His most important statement that he always shared with me, learn the steps before you take the leap. So he goes on to say, and I know this is a long quote to be on a PowerPoint, so I'll read it, but it's truly an important wrap-up of this whole thing that we're going to talk about. As for predicting success, the explanation is simple. Potential shortcomings are typically fairly easy to identify at the early stages on the innovation process, even the idea stage. However, success is dependent upon a good idea and good management. Thus, good invention times good management equals successful innovation. Note, this relationship here is multiplicative rather than additive. If there's a goose egg on either side of this equation, you get a goose egg. So if you don't have good business management practices and a good invention and work those two together, you will not be able to succeed. How do you know you're getting a good deal in a licensing agreement if you don't have any of that business knowledge of how this actually works? And I will digress with this one story. The saddest story that I will ever tell you is a man who called me in tears, and he was saying that he had signed a 3-year licensing agreement with a company that was going to pay him a royalty he never, ever expected that he could get for his product. 3 years were up. There was no money that came to him. He went to the company and he tried so hard to get them to explain why he never made any of this great money. Well, he was only going to get paid. In the agreement he signed, he was only going to get paid for every product that they made. They never made one of his products. They chose to not make any of them, but they knew that when they were negotiating that licensing agreement with him, and they knew how vulnerable he was. Now that agreement was over with. He lost over 4 years of the life of his patent, and they finally told him they knew if they didn't lock him into this and that he was vulnerable enough to sign that agreement the way it was written, that if he walked out that door and went to their competition, it would shut that company down. Did he do any research? Did he bring it to an attorney and have that attorney look at it? There was no upfront money. There was no clause that says if you don't do this in so many months, this agreement is null and void. And it was a really hard question to ask him, but I said, would you have even listened to the advice of an attorney back then? And he said, probably not, because it was so powerful. That idea of locking in that agreement was so important. So he admitted he probably would not have even taken his attorney's advice. So it's just important to understand, to plan for early and low cost failure. You want to make sure that you're taking time to become as knowledgeable as you can about the process so that you are spending your time and money wisely. And it's not just time and money, it's personal relationship. There's a whole lot of people that are involved in this process that you want to also be aware of. So the objective for today is to know that this is just an overview of the process. You learn the key steps that successful inventors use. Here, that little word right there, marketable, to get their marketable products into the marketplace. It's one thing to get a product into the marketplace, but if there isn't a big market, you may be spending a lot of money and have nothing that there won't be an income from it because it's not selling and you've invested money. So you want to make sure it's a marketable product. You want to identify and validate key resources you need, how to spot invention promotion companies. And again, my favorite phrase, invest your time and money on what it absolutely is necessary to do to succeed. So my takeaway is if you walk away overwhelmed that this is more than you can or want to get involved with, that I've helped you avoid tapping into your retirement fund or taking out a second mortgage on your home without knowing the risks, I've done my job. I'll be thrilled and honored to know that you have made that call. The other side of it is if you feel that you're willing to make that investment and to learn how to do it right, you'll at least be aiming on how to do it to save you some of those risks. Another one of my favorite quotes, Mark Lake wrote the book, The Inventor's Puzzle. When we had a conversation, I had asked him, tell me what your favorite pieces are. And he said, remember, necessity is the mother of invention, but greed is its father. So this quote is not his. This quote is not his. This is mine. Please don't let your fear, greed, and ego get in the way of making good business decisions. It is so imperative that you actually put check on that part of you because it's very easy to be swayed by people who are trying to tell you what you want to hear as opposed to what's real. So there is a kind of a checklist that you can use to become familiar with the product development process. Dr. Jenny Servo gave us permission many years ago to use her outline. You may have done some things already to develop your idea, but you want to make sure that you're processing as we go through these steps. If you've missed any of them, it may be really important for you to go back and catch some of those. So if you think inventing is a way to get rich quick, that the quick income replacement if you lost a job, or that you can make money with only an idea, please think again. There's just not a list of companies waiting to pay you for your idea. I would give anything if I could have been paid $1 for every time I would ask that question over the years of answering phone, email, meeting inventors at all of the different events I've been at over the years. There is not a list. There are lists of companies who are open to open innovation. There are different types of lists that you can access through manufacturing and those kinds of things, but not of somebody who's going to pay you for an idea. Your job is to prove to a company how your product will make them money. Honestly, I've heard manufacturers say they really aren't even that interested in exactly what the product is. It's more important if that's on the shelf, is it going to make them money? And your job is to show them why it will make them money. The emails that I get now through the UIA, it says nothing in there, but my idea is an energy invention that will make millions of dollars, and I'll share it with you. Just give me the name of the company who will pay me for my idea. And I'm not exactly quoting it, but it is that type of similar language, and I will get sometimes 2 or 3 of those a week. And I have a standard phrase that I respond back. It doesn't work that way. You're not going to change an entire industry by just throwing an idea at somebody. And if you choose to throw it at somebody, Walt's going to spend quite a bit of time talking about the intellectual property information that you need to know if you do just throw your idea out to anybody. How many of you watch Shark Tank? It's a great show to teach inventors something that I think is so important. I want you to listen to the questions that the investors are asking. Not that the inventors are telling them. I want you to listen to those questions the investors are asking, because that's the type of information you need to be doing your research about. Basic information you need to know if you are not patent pending or have an issued patent before you make any type of public disclosure. This is one of those that's so near and dear to my heart, and I'm thrilled that Walt is going to be going through information about the wonderful resource that's right here in this building, a patent depository library, and the information available. And those are available throughout the country. There's one in every state. So I'm not an attorney. I'm only sharing with you, like I said earlier, about how, after attending all of the different workshops and working with different people over the years, the implications of publicly disclosing your idea too soon. Because it could put your public disclosure can put your intellectual property rights at risk. And I don't go into the details. That's going to be the next session. But before any kind of disclosure, please take time to consider looking at or having a confidentiality agreement or a non-disclosure agreement. And if you do that, keep notes of any discussions you have with the people. And when you get home, write it down and send them a letter recapping it, so that you're controlling what information was shared or wasn't shared at those meetings for future, potential recourse if there is a potential infringement that comes up. Once you publicly disclose your idea, you have 1 year to file a non-provisional application. And you might consider filing a provisional patent application, and I will tell you that most of the communication I get from an inventor who has filed a provisional patent application believes they have a patent. And I'll say, well, if you have a patent, what's your patent? If it's an issued patent, what's the patent number? And I can look it up online. It's free for it, it's accessible to anybody. Well, they'll send me the number that's on the postcard they get back from the USPTO office, which means they have filed a provisional patent. And they don't have a patent issued. They've just started and done the first step in the process. And a lot of people don't understand that. So pay close attention to the information you're going to hear, because it's on you to understand this. If you think that just because you filed a provisional patent application, you don't have a patent. And you still want to take some steps, because if you don't know the international implications or any of that, there's a reason why you need to become educated and take a little bit more time to go into that. As I shared with Carl's example, not every product needs to be patented. But if you do plan to license your idea, I can share with you that without any kind of intellectual property protection, companies may not be interested in signing a deal with you. It's the way that they have of controlling the market for a certain amount of time. And there are exceptions, toys, games, baby products, and others that IP is not as important. There, again, it's like Carl, get it in the marketplace, make your money, and come up with a new invention quickly. I know that people have filed their own provisional patent applications and patent applications, and there are some people who are very qualified to do that. I can also tell you that there are people who are not, and when it comes down to actually litigating an issued patent in court, there is great value in working with an attorney. They're trained in the art of writing claims. So it's just, I'm not trying to tell you what you should or shouldn't do, just to be aware of the fact that what you're paying an attorney to do is to write a patent application that is strong enough so that if you are infringed against, you have somebody who actually can defend those claims. I can honestly tell you that I have been through examples with patent attorneys over the years where we literally would write claims, and they've said that they've sent on information to the Patent and Trademark Office, and they're moved through because people write them so broadly. You know, what you want, no, they write them so narrowly. You want them broadly. The language has to be broad, and that's what your attorney brings to the table. So you want to make sure that you understand those implications. Yeah. So, and truly, I need to update this because I don't know if there's a newer version of Patent It Yourself or not. But when you do decide to move forward and you do work with a patent attorney, read what information you can. Patent It Yourself is a book that's been around for, I don't know, 14, 15 editions. But then you bring the best client you can possibly bring to the table to work with your patent attorney. You understand the process, and you're going to be able to work together to get what you want. So at the very beginning, the Inventor's Notebook used to be the gold standard. I still encourage people to do an Inventor's Notebook where you're actually writing down what you're doing, how you're developing your idea, because then you can go back and look. Oh yeah, I've tried this didn't work. You know, we're now a first inventor to file country, so that book, the attorneys are saying, are not quite as relevant. But again, it's a great resource for you to go back and trace your history. Learn the intellectual property basics, determine the best forms for your product, and then spend time. Read, learn, attend inventing, the clubs. If you have a club in your area, go to your inventors club and ask for resources to come and speak about topics that are important to you. But then you need to evaluate your time, money, and drive. What is motivating you to do this? You also need to ask yourself, are you solving a need? And I need to add this, a need or a want, because there's things we buy that we don't need, that we just want. Sometimes those are okay too. So, another one of Mark's quotes that I truly love, you need to have a good understanding of who your competition and customer are. Now it is possible to merge these pieces of information into a top-level market analysis that summarizes the business opportunity that you and your prospective partners are facing in dollars and cents. Common sense, that is. Words matter. You need to make sure you can tell your story in words, and you need to be able to sell it well in that sense. This will be emailed to you in a white background PowerPoint PDF, so you will have all of the slides sent to you. So, Mark is saying you need to identify your target market. Who is your customer? Is it females between the ages of 25 and 36, or males between 45 and 62 that are golfers? You know, whatever the target market is it children? Is it, you know, new parents? Whatever your target market is, you need to identify that and truly use that as a part of your story as you're explaining it. You need to know who your competitors are. What products are similar to yours? And more importantly, you need to be able to explain why your product is different than theirs. What is it that will drive people? What are you solving? What are you giving them that the others don't? I always throw this slide in because I think it's important. If you're a contracted employee, you need to make sure you know if there's language in there about your intellectual property rights. Some employee contracts literally state that whatever you develop, the company owns, even if it has nothing to do with the products that company develops. So if you are one of those, you know, it's very few employees sign it, but your engineers, there's levels of employment that have that. But if you are one of those, please be sure and get the answer to that. One of the other business pieces is having a business plan. Have any of you started a business plan around your product? Congratulations. It's really an important step. They can be daunting. They can be overwhelming. You know, I love, Jim Horan gave me permission to share this. it's the very first step in a business plan process that helps you lay out, within the next 5 years, I want to grow, my company into a successful national plumbing company providing or specializing in products for contractors that install commercial products in hotels across the country. And the target market for them is literally the making sure that the architects and those know about it. Every one of these are going to be different, but it's really important for you to have a stage set of what your goal is and what your objectives are. So yes, do a business plan. And there are great resources online. Small business development centers across the country provide free help in small business, in a business plan, and to help you develop it. The next step that you need to be doing, and this is probably the most important one, does it already exist and why do I care? I had the opportunity to be a judge once for a telemarketing company, and we're on the panel and this person is presenting an idea and they had spent over $25,000 developing this product. And they're showing the product, and the person to the right of me is the vice president of marketing for this company. And what's he doing as they're showing it? He's online searching. He turns his laptop around and shows them their exact product that's already on the market, that's for sale for 99 cents a piece. And you could see the emotion come over them. But they hadn't even done this step. They don't use the internet. They don't use technology. They'd been doing this in their own little world. And to watch them walk out of that room was heartbreaking. Conduct a thorough search. Look to see, come up here, use the patent depository library here. Google.com, you can go to the USPTO website. You can hire a patent attorney or agent to do it quickly. But the simplest things to start with is go online, order catalogs for the products in the industry that yours is connected to. You want to do everything possible. Walk the stores. If it's a retail product, walk the stores, see what's out there. Look at the companies that are manufacturing similar products, because that's who you're going to be aiming to work towards communicating with. You want to make sure early on whether you are infringing on somebody else's patent, because that is not a wise decision to keep moving forward when you find out there's already something out there like it. If you can differentiate the difference, then you do further research, you do some more testing. But you can also check with Thomas Register, McRae's Blue Book, Alibaba, for manufacturers of similar products, and look through their lists and see what comes up. How to fund your product development. Money is needed for product development evaluation, prototypes, the provisional patent application, and for additional intellectual property protection. There are people who license products that don't have to go real deep, but if you don't even build a prototype of your product, how do you even know if it works? It's really important for you to test it and see if it functions the way you imagine that it should function. Is there free money? There is some, but it's really rare or unique. You need to spend time doing that research. There are some small business development offices that have lists. I know that in Oregon, they have a SBDC office there that they specialize in trying to find money to help the entrepreneurs in their state. Not all states focus on that area. They happen to be blessed with one that does. But are there reliable resources? Absolutely. They are out there, and you need to make sure you're wearing your best hat forward to identify who the best are and who they aren't. A lot of people fund their early stage development with family, friends, and fools. It truly is a risk that people are willing to take many times. So that the early stage dollars are not the easiest to come by. Angel investors, venture capitalists, you're gonna pay a lot of money for that money. So you need to be aware of that, and you need to be conscious of the fact that the interest that they charge on that is their gamble. They're taking that risk, and they're gonna set their price. You can negotiate, but they do set their price. It's their call. So again, you want to be doing some preliminary evaluation to determine how far you want to go into this. Have any of you ever done a focus group? Good. Focus groups are a very, very affordable way to get some feedback. Simple template would be you have a sheet, and if anybody wants information, at the end of the PowerPoint when you get it, send me an email and I'll send you a template on how to do a focus group, because it's very simple. You don't want to be in the room though. It's really hard for somebody to tell their baby is ugly when they're in the room. But you want to bring together who are interested in the product, and I'll go back to the plumbing example. If you have a product, you want to bring in the contractors, the plumbing people, the heating and plumbing contractors in your area, and set them up and ask the questions. What do they like? What don't they like? How much are you willing to spend for this? Yes.
Okay, how does that infringe on your, like, if you don't have a provisional patent applied? I know Walt is going to get into that later, but I mean, you want to do a focus group, but you can't tell anybody about your invention because then it wrecks that year-long thing, that time period for filing the other patent. You know what I'm talking about?
Right. So your question is, if you don't have any intellectual property protection started, you're not patent pending, in a focus group, are you potentially
subject to?
Yes. Are there going to be implications? Yes. That's where you typically would have them sign a non-disclosure agreement when they come in. And you're not opening this up to 100 people. You're inviting 5 people. And you're asking them what they like about the product, what they don't, and reminding them in the script. I literally say, you're reminding them that this is confidential. They've signed an agreement. You want to make sure that you're taking note of that. There are calculated risks that you take through this process, and it's a judgment call you have to make. If you're not willing to do that, then you may consider doing the filing of a provisional patent application beforehand, where you can say it's patent pending and do that. And I'd still have them sign that. You're just setting the stage that it's really important. I think the other piece that is really fascinating is the neutral product evaluation. I was reviewing my list the other day, and sadly there's not a lot of places that do that anymore. If you lived in North Dakota, they have a fascinating program for entrepreneurs. But there is a unique way that I've heard inventors tell me lately about how they get some insight about their product. So back to the plumbing example, they'll go into Home Depot and ask somebody on the floor there, what do they have that solves the problem that their product, they're not showing them their product, they aren't bringing it in, but they're walking in and asking them, what do you have that solves the problem of doing this, whatever it is your invention is designed to solve? And then talk to them about what they think would sell in the store, or if there was one that did this, or, and having conversations. I want to get a better storyline. So the next time I talk to somebody, I'm going to really push to have some time with them, because I think that's a unique approach to actually just have some conversations. Go into Ace Hardware, go into the big box stores and talk to them about it. Because you're not divulging what your product is. You're asking them what's already there that solves the problem you've designed your product to do. How many of you have done crowdfunding? How many of you have invested in a crowdfunding project on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, GoFundMe? So it's a very common method for entrepreneurs to do this. And again, if you're going to do crowdfunding, make sure you understand the intellectual property challenge that you may be starting. I have talked to inventors who could not get their patent issued because their own invention could be used as prior art against them because it was online the year before. I mean, it was online before a year before they filed for their patent. They submitted their patent application, and they were denied. I mean, it didn't even go any further than once they started doing that search because it showed up on the internet on when they posted it, and it jeopardized their ability to get the intellectual property protection they were hoping for. It's a great resource, but if you do it, make sure you get information about how to run a successful one, because there's many not very successful ones out there. So at this point, you're making some decisions. Is there a market interest? Is a comparable product already out there? How is it doing? And what were your product evaluation results? This is a time where you step back and say, yeah, I've gotten a lot of positive input, or the negative input or the challenges I've been shared tells me I need to think about not moving any further through this. You have to make the call at that point. Do you have the financial resources to finance your product development? What is your motivation for this invention, and what are your expectations? Constantly be self-reflecting, constantly be thinking about what it is that is driving you. Well, when you get into phase 2, you're starting to crank up the expenses. I don't go into a lot of detail on this because this is really at these very beginning stages, but just know that there are things that can come up, liability costs, working with an insurance agent, redesigns, if it's something that you have to go through like a food and drug evaluation, UL, if there's electrical, the schematics, and those types of things. You want to make sure that you're paying attention to what those next stages are. And prototype development is huge. A lot of times you don't have to have the final product versus a working model if you're going to show it to somebody. If it's got titanium in it, you don't have to have the titanium in it. You can use whatever will make it show that it functions. If precision is important, then it needs to be there. You need to start collecting bids on final stage prototype development, and be sure you keep accurate records. I want you to keep accurate records of everything you're doing. Get a notebook that you designate specifically for this. Again, keep your materials list, do everything you can. 3D printing, there's so many resources that can be done that you can hire in the area to do 3D printing of different products, even components of products, so consider that when it comes to prototypes. Cognizant of the time, and again, think about, did I go? Yeah, and I'm not going to go over this anymore because we've talked about it enough. The most important piece here is intellectual property something that, is it a business asset you need to acquire? If you don't know the answer to this question, it's too early for you to be making that decision. It doesn't help to have a patent issued for a product that has absolutely no market. The time, the expense, the feeling of loss can be great for an inventor who got a patent and thought that's all they needed to make money with their product. And that's not what a patent is for. A patent is to help you stop somebody else. It's your property ownership. It's saying, I own these descriptions in this claim, and you can't make it, and I can take you to court and make you stop. The government doesn't do it. That's the other very common request. My patent has been infringed on, and the government says they won't do anything. It's never been, ever, the role of government to fight for your property right protections, just like it isn't if somebody imposes on your land. you have to go through the process. So be aware of what that all means. At this time, you need to be deciding whether you're going to proceed licensing or manufacturing and becoming that entrepreneur. So you want to evaluate what your motivations and expectations are, and truly consider your strengths, weaknesses, your resources, and your aspirations.
Are there any restrictions on if someone comes up with a patent and they have 20 years or 14 years, depending on the type of patent? If they never do anything and they just design it, or they just made a prototype, but they never really went into manufacturing, can someone else come up with it? Or, I mean, is there any restrictions of, okay, you have a patent but you never did anything with it, you lose it, or you keep it?
Okay, again, I'm not an attorney. His question is, if somebody has a patent and doesn't do anything with it, it's just sitting there, can you just use it? I'm not an attorney, but I would say that the answer would be no. If the person, you have to pay your maintenance fees. I mean, that's another thing that people don't understand is if you get a patent issued, you have to pay maintenance fees at so many years. Is it still 3, 7, and 11 years? Where you're paying these fees. Especially if it's licensed to somebody, if it's assigned to somebody. But your goal, if you need to do some negotiating, you may be able to license with them to use that technology if you need part of it to do your product, or you may be able to work with them to get the product because you think there's a market for it. But it's just like if you own land, if I own hunting land and I don't do anything with it, it doesn't give somebody the right to just come and squat it. It's mine, it's not theirs. And it's no different with intellectual property is my interpretation. But again, I'm not an attorney. I wouldn't take the risk, not after my 30 years of learning about case law that, talks about the ownership or the right for that person, to control what is done with that. All right, so, and again, this is another one that is just that food for thought. If you have the entrepreneurial spirit, you need to be delving into the marketing and production, distribution, fulfillment, capital investments. So, which is completely different than licensing. And again, that's where you need to make sure you bring in the business experts that help you develop your ideas. This part is the part that has probably caused me more pain, more sorrow. Naive inventors who literally have been taken advantage of or not taken the time to learn enough information to know that this wouldn't be a good choice for them. The invention promotion companies, you see their commercials, you hear them on television, on the radio, you know in your heart that it probably sounds too good to be true when they're sitting there in their office that you're going to make millions with your idea. But I have heard of people losing between $695 up to $300,000 with one of the companies, where they just kept paying and paying because this man was so naive. He just felt like, he was so far deep into it that he didn't know how to get out of it. And he was in North Dakota explaining to us what had happened to him. And he truly, the saddest part of this is he didn't take any responsibility for it at all. He blamed them for the entire loss that he had. But it wasn't their fault. These companies are some of the best marketers in the country on telling you and tapping into your fear, greed, and ego on making poor business decisions. So there are good companies out there that actually do license products. There are great licensing agents. There are marketing companies that do their job. I'm not expecting you to be able to read this. I just want you to see that it's from a page of a website. This is from Davison and Associates that was fined $26 million by the Federal Trade Commission. They actually ended up paying $10 million of that fine. So I'm going to go into more detail of some of the wording in there, but I just wanted you to see, let me go back. Up in the top, this is Davison, and it is their legal document, which is provided to anybody who signs a contract with these companies. You're supposed to read the language in those contracts, because it is unbelievable what it says, but it doesn't make sense because you don't know. You're not looking for that. I don't blame inventors for not understanding this, but if you don't understand it, then don't sign a contract. You need to read all the information. So to paraphrase what it says here, the total number of consumers that sent in, and this is from 2012 because they pulled this after that. I have not been able to get updated information, but they had 681,000 people submit ideas to them, okay? So the number that were offered a pre-development contract were 316,755. And here's where they go into, this is in their contract. It talks about the number who obtained a written licensing agreement is 429, all right? So again, the total number that purchased the pre-development of the 56,000, there's just so much here. The number of consumers who signed a new product sample agreement or similar agreement is 16,057. The numbers that obtain a written licensing agreement with a company not affiliated with Davison is 429. All right? So then you go on here, and the total number of consumers who made more in royalties than they paid in to the company, which by federal law is designed as $1 over what they paid in. So if they paid $12,000 and got $12,001, they're a part of the 15 who made more money than what they paid in, of all of those people who signed agreements with this company. So the percentage of income and royalties in the verbiage in their contract, 0.001%. So 99.999% of their revenue is from the fees inventors pay to them.
Why would the inventors have to pay to them?
You're hiring them. The question was, why do inventors have to pay to them? You start with a $695 to a $1,500 agreement, and some of these companies, that language says, and I am not exaggerating this phrase, it literally says, we're going to take you on as a customer. That's what you're paying for. I mean, this just hurts me so much because there's so much expectation from the inventor that these companies really want to do this for them. They don't need to do anything. The minimum these people pay is the $695. You take that times the $56,000 or 56,000 people. I need to change my equation on that. The 56,135 people, just the basic, they made $39 million in those 5 years time frame. They don't need to do anything for you. This is a revenue model for them. They have the best marketing company out there. I honestly believe these companies are the best marketers out there. Steal their idea of how to encourage people to do something, but don't do it illegally. It's just so hard. So the percentage of people who made more than they paid in was 0.0002%. So is it the right way to go? No. Keep at it. It's rare that customers beat a path to anyone's door. It's not easy, as every inventor believes, to take a product into the marketplace. It does take hard work and determination to give your invention the best chance of succeeding. So hopefully you have some new information to help you understand the process and know how important it is that the decisions you make are in developing your idea. You know that there may be a lot of work ahead of you, and that people can achieve success when they combine a good invention with good management. Again, a great resource, small business development. Have any of you ever worked with a small business development counselor? Truly. There are chapters all across the country. They can't always help inventors at the early stage. It's not their expertise. But when you get into that business model piece, it is really a great resource. Another one, of course, LegalCORPS in Minnesota. We're just so honored to have that resource here. with legal and now with the Inventor program. And yeah, I've been referring people to LegalCORPS for many moons. SCORE, has anybody used a SCORE advisor? One of the unique pieces about SCORE is you can actually go in and find people who are experts in the industry that you're a part of, or where you need help. So take advantage of that. Are there any questions? To wrap it up, it's free to become a member for the UIA. Just go to uiausa.org, fill out the information on the right, hit send, and you'll be notified of trade shows that we're hosting across the country, National Hardware Show, PGA, the Professional Golf Association Merchandise Show, whatever shows that we're having, you'll get notice, and then any news blasts with information and content to help you. Thank you so much.